Whichever angle you look at this at, the attack at Dover or the move to Manston, it just highlights how this system is. I mean, it's not only not working, it's quite literally falling apart at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. There's this real general sense at the moment that our asylum system is on the brink of collapse. I think this weekend we saw 1,000 migrants in one day land in boats on our shores. The queues, I mean, this awful attack as well. There's a real sense that we're kind of at fever pitch, I suppose, here. And I think it's this event, particularly the awful petrol bombing. I mean, thank goodness no one was hurt. But it kind of highlights the kind of fever of the moment. And this is a huge test for our new Home Secretary, Suella Braverman.
Has she got, really, right now, with all the other stories flying around about her, the credibility to actually impact this situation?
I think that's a really good question. I think if you look at how everything plays out over the weekend, you know, very serious events, very serious criticisms, who was on the front foot of reacting to all of this? It wasn't the Home Secretary. You know, she wasn't on our TV screens. She wasn't the one responding to it. The person that put out a statement from the government, first of all, was Robert Jenrick, the Immigration Minister. It wasn't our Home Secretary. She put one out a few hours later after the awful petrol bombing. So I think you know, my question sort of going into this week is, you know, is Suella Braverman being sidelined a little bit here? Is she on the front foot of this crisis, or, you know, is Rishi Sunak pushing out other ministers to the front on this?
I mean, in a sense, would that be a sensible move in that there are issues around Suella Braverman which cause problems for Rishi Sunak, but getting rid of her would cause even more problems. I mean, not just within his own party, but actually with the markets and this sort of idea of instability.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well. I think she kind of she served a purpose. I sort of saw her, you know, whether or not they may or may not have done a deal, Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman, but she was kind of you know, her support for Rishi was a kind of block Boris, bring the right with you. So she was kind of it was sort of a marriage of convenience, I think, between those two. And I think you're right. If he did sack her right now, I mean, it's the last thing he'd probably want to do. I think he'll try and keep her for a while. Whether or not she's the Home Secretary this time next year, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
In the meantime, look, this situation, the government ministers often have much more longer-term plans. Oh, we'll talk to France, we'll try to negotiate with them. The Rwanda plan, it needs short-term, immediate intervention because this pressure situation that we're in, with every day, we know, comes more people. And that situation is, as you said, really on the edge of breaking point.
Yeah, I think there's short-term measures that they really need to take, sort of expanding those centres already, because the reports of overcrowding are hideous. You know, I'm sure you would have seen the reports over the weekend. Diphtheria, scabies, MRSA, I think there was a report this morning. You know, we're better than that. You know, it's a crisis, but I think we need to be better than that.
And we do need to look at the frustration this causes. A lot of people are very sympathetic, but that doesn't mean you can't be frustrated as well. Gail's been in touch. Morning, Gail. She says, I have great sympathy for genuine asylum seekers, but we can't even house British people properly. Now, it's a fair point. I mean, that's not a racist point, is it? That's just a fair point. Tensions
are running really, really high. There was some quite interesting sort of human interest case studies of people that lived in Dover and reporting how they'd sort of seen a migrant climbing over their fence and things like that, or, you know, even in their bedroom. And, you know, they were sort of saying, we actually feel sorry for the migrants as well, but we're also terrified when, you know, someone's in our garden or whatever. So I think, you know, immediately a lot needs to be done to sort of reassure those communities in Kent as well.
Yeah, which is a fair point. John, morning John, says the government needs to get to grips with the amount of people coming here every day, as it's having mental health effects on people who live here, especially in Kent. I mean, that is, you know, I've got to be careful with the language, but you don't want to turn Dover and that part of Kent into an area where people just do not want to be. Exactly.
I think you know, I don't sort of blame politicians for that awful attack at the weekend and things like that, but I think maybe they have a role to play in sort of dialing down language a little bit. I think they need to reassure the Kent community that they're taking action, for one thing, but I also think they could do a little bit in sort of dialing rhetoric down and trying to calm the situation down and reassure people that they are acting on it.